Today, I'm going to be trying to successfully land a rocket on the moon and then return to Earth with this beautiful little machine here. Let's get to it. All engines on and go. How about we skip to the interesting part? Interesting part number 1 is coming up right now. We're going to detach the side stages, or side boosters. Okay, our orbit is coming nicely. We can recover that thing. I may or may not have practiced doing this before the time. I'm going to set the moon as our target. And I'll skip to when we're in orbit. Go ahead and jettison the fairings. So, what's going to happen is this stage is the one that's going to go down to the moon, while this one orbits the moon. After this one lands on the moon, it's going to come back up, redock with this. Right there, it's going to detach. The main stage and the engine and everything is going to fall down to the moon, and this part that you see currently is going to head back to Earth. Then the capsule will drop off of the stage. The capsule will land and the stage will crash into Earth, thus ending our mission. So, we are almost in orbit. I will quickly try to circularize it. Let's see where the moon is. Moon is right there, so there's our prograde ring. That little white area we have to burn prograde in, which prograde is burning in the direction that you are already heading, so accelerating in the direction you are accelerating. So that means once I'm in that white ring, or white line, highlighted area, I will burn. So I'm inside of it, quickly go straight and turn the engine on. So now the opposite side of my orbit will continue enlarging until intersecting the moon's orbit. So we'll skip to then. And here we are about to intersect the moon, so I'll bring our thrust a little bit down and let it slowly go. And there you can see it disappears there and intersects here. So we'll go a little bit closer so that we have enough space to orbit. I'll say it till about there. Single time warp to here, and we'll let it pull itself in. So we entered the moon sphere of influence. I'll slow our time warp down, turn on RCS, which is reaction control system, so it tries to keep it stable and we can use it to move things around. So around at the line, which is our closest point of intersect, I'm going to stop time warping. We're going to turn the craft in the retrograde direction, so we're accelerating this way. We want to go that way, that's retrograde. So, and that pulls my orbit in. So now I've entered a moon orbit. It is right here where I will keep the orange stage. This stage I am going to detach. And now I'm going to try to intersect the moon by shortening my orbit around it. Turn my engine on. So I'll bring that orbit down to there. I'll stop there, turn around, and bring the rest of the orbit in. Till about there. And I'll just keep on pulling the orbit in. Let's skip. Okay, so now we're here. I am slowly pulling the orbit in, and I want this to be almost a straight line, or as close to a straight line as we can get it. So let's do about just about there. That's about as close as we can get it. So now I'll go here, and we'll try to drop directly onto the moon. So I'll skip ahead to there. So here we are dropping onto the moon's surface. I'll go ahead and put the landing legs out already. And we will thrust, but only with a low burn, because we don't want to waste our fuel. But we want the velocity up at the top corner to be very low, around 3. Ooh, now we've headed up. I don't want to do that. Okay, let's zoom in. You're coming down. And we use the RCS the rest of the way. We have landed on the lunar, or we have landed on the moon's surface. We are right there on the moon. So now that we've made it to the moon, it's time to start our journey back. We have to try to intersect the upper stage, or the other stage. So now what we will do is start this up 100%. Engine is on. We start up. We close the landing legs. And we start making our orbit around the moon. Now, it doesn't matter which way you orbit, but I like orbiting to the right. So I will now switch my orbit from the left to the right. And as we continue going up, it starts showing us which path we should take to intersect there. So I'll get into an orbit and then show you how to get to that. Orbit, but this line right here shows where I will be and where the other stage will be when we try to connect. That's how far away we'll be. That's our closest point of connect. So that's not really going to work. So what I need to do is I need to make my orbit more circular. So this is currently an oval. So I'll come here, I'll burn retrograde, which is in this direction. It'll make it more of a circle. So now I'll orbit, I'll time warp, until it gives me a straight-ish line on the opposite end. I don't think it's going to give me a straight-ish line yet. I think my orbit has to be a bit bigger. So I'm going to make my orbit bigger there. Come here on this side and make my orbit bigger there until it's about a whole circle. I'll also deselect the moon as our target, so it only gives me that one line. So now if I keep orbiting, there you go, straight line right there. So what I'll do is I'll go opposite of that line and burn prograde, which makes our orbit bigger. So prograde. Ooh, it's a little bit too fast. We want to try to get these two to connect. Those two lines. Okay. So these two lines are pretty much connected. We will now warp until it gives us another line. There's the other line. So now I will go across from that line and burn prograde to get those two to connect. Come on. Okay, so now our line of approach is getting smaller and smaller, and that's where it is now. That's pretty close. So I'm going to try to get it even closer. Try to get it in that dark white. I guess you could call it bright white, dark white, whatever you want spot. So now I'll accelerate it, and we're going to keep going around until we hit right about there, because we don't want to crash into each other. So now we're almost there, so I stop it right before we get there, and I look out for it. There it is, up in the corner. So we decrease relative velocity, which means if it's moving away from me, I move towards it, basically like that. So if I see that, ooh, the other stage is traveling down from me, and I don't want it to go too far down, I would go down, and it would freeze. So right now, it's traveling too fast towards me, so I just travel a little bit away from it. So I press the down button, and it goes slower and slower and slower. So once you try this, you'll start figuring it out. I'll just start going towards it, and we're almost there. You know what? We'll skip to it. So now we come to this point where we see that we are turned in the wrong direction. So what we have to do is move a little bit to the side. I'll slow it down a little bit. I'll even turn around, ready to dock. And I'll travel up. Wait for it to pass me. We're going too fast, so now I just need to bring it down a little bit. And now we are about there. So we just quickly finalize it. Coming closer. Now since we're at the moon, the one quick thrust moves you much more than you think it should. We're connected now. But if we do it around Earth, if we do one quick thrust like this around Earth, it really doesn't move you that much. So, like, I could easily slow down when I came past this here around the moon, but I have to, when I'm trying to connect with the International Space Station, which I'll do in another video, I have to hold down on that thing, hold down on the button. So, what we'll do now, we'll release this. We don't need that anymore. So that can go. You know, I can even. What they would usually do in these missions is they turn it around, but I can't do that because it doesn't have a control thing on it. It doesn't have a command module on it, so I can't turn around. So what I'll do is I'll just destroy it. In the Apollo missions, it had a command module on it, and they could turn it around and burn retrograde and make it intercept the moon and blow up on the moon. So now what we're going to do is we'll select the Earth as our target. And it should give us a ring or a line right there. And we have to burn prograde in that, so we'll orbit onto it. We are about there. And there we are. Now we burn. So we have to do it backwards now since the capsule is on it, making it look weird. We'll burn this direction. Oh, I guess that'll work anyway. It doesn't really matter. So there we go, coming around the Earth like that. Now we'll accelerate, time warp, till we get to about right at that line. We turn and bring the orbit in, just like we did around the moon. we're going to come into a low Earth orbit. There's my space station right there. I'll show you a quick view of it once my orbit is stabilized here. Okay, it's a goodish orbit. This is my space station. Sorry for all the fuel and power lines at the side, probably filling your screen. These are for the small docking ports for resupply missions. Although you can't really resupply, I'm just playing pretend. These are for ships to dock with. And this is for a large ship to dock with, as there is currently one on. This is to refuel. So, switch to the other one. We're going to bring the orbit in as close as we can. Now I'm going to release this one here, and then we're going to switch to the other one, and I'm going to move it with the RCS a little bit away so that I don't accidentally hit it. So there you go. They're at two different orbits now. So there's not really a big chance that I'm going to hit the capsule. So we'll skip to descent and parachute deployment. About 15 kilometers, going slowly down. Now we can only deploy the parachute at about 2,500 meters, and we have to be under 200 meters per second. So we are about to reach the velocity at which we're allowed to deploy the parachute. Okay, we have reached the velocity about which we can deploy the parachute, and we're about to reach the height. But what I do, because if I release the parachute at 2,500 meters, it takes a long time, and I mean a long time for it to fall. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something that in the space industry they would consider risky, but in this, since there's like no real people, I would release it really late, like 300 meters. Now, if these were real people, I would release it at 2,500. Give them enough time to calm down before they hit the ground slowly. But right here, I can just release it here. And the cool thing about this is it's partially released, and at 100 meters, it fully releases. And we're almost there. See how slowly it goes? 3.9 meters per second. If you were to do that from 2,500, it would take a long time. And touchdown. see if the other part is still there. Nope, it's not. So, we have successfully been to the moon. We reached low Earth orbit. We went to the moon's sphere of influence. We entered a moon orbit, landed on the surface, and escaped the sphere of influence, came back to Earth, and landed. Thank you for joining me on this mission, and I'll see you in the next one.